Hello and a very warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Rajan Pereira. And since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, and then hit the bell icon. Of course, followed by all notifications. Do follow our social media handles for all the latest updates, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive contents. Here are the UPI IDs for those of you who would like to come forward and contribute. They, along with all the other information, are in the description of this video. So please go through the description. A small contribution that you make will go a long way in helping us to keep bringing you this content. So do continue to show your love and support. And now on to the discussion. The Trinamool Congress Supremo Mamata Banerjee was sworn in as West Bengal Chief Minister for the third straight term today after she spearheaded her party to a remarkable victory in the assembly polls. She called on Governor Jagdeep Dhankar at Raj Bhavan and resigned as the Chief Minister, as is the practice before she was administered the oath of office and secrecy again. The lead up to the ceremony, however, was marred with wide-scale violence across West Bengal. The state machinery collapsed and at least 14 people lost their lives. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the post-poll violence in West Bengal. Joining me on the program today are S. Lakshmi Narayanan, former Home Secretary, Government of India, Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP, Uttar Pradesh, and J. Sai Deepak, Advocate of the Supreme Court. Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, I'd like to start the program with you first. How would you look at all the violence that has taken place in West Bengal after the election results were declared?
Sir, the violence at any place is regrettable, and what has happened is, or what is happening in Bengal is most regrettable. But unfortunately, all have contributed to this. In fact, there should not have been so many rallies and so many addressed by either leaders or by the present CM Mamata ji, because all this have complicated not only the communal harmony and the harmony among the people, but have also contributed to COVID also in a big way, which is going to be the priority and which should be the priority of the present government. In fact, the whole approach of trying to only criticize the minorities who have now are there in Bengal, and then suggesting that, you know, we will throw them out, or also are giving even an impression, because we are all said and done a secular country. We should not have given the impression that, you know, we are going to only sort of ask for the support of one group or community of people, but all this is complicated issues, and all that also resulted in Mamata winning, because it was a complete juggernaut of the ruling elite and ruling party's elite on one lady who could effectively dramatize her injury, who could effectively point to the people that, you know, it's a single lady who is belonging to the same religion for which the others were pleading, Hindus, and then she was also narrating the Devi part every day. All this ensured that she has got a now 2/3 majority.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Singh, let me bring you into the picture now, right? You know, as far as the state machinery is concerned, do you believe that it has failed? Do you believe that the police needed to have done much more in a situation like this? Because the message that we are sending out to the rest of the country and the rest of the world is a very grim one.
Precisely, Mr. Frank. This was nothing that could not have been predicted, anticipated, and preventive action could not have been taken. The entire philosophy of policing is preventive action, and prevention being better than cure. The entire CRPC has a chapter on preventive action, 107, 116, 106, 3 subclause, taking preventive action under 151 CRPC. We have Mr. Subramaniam here, who has vast experience on what preventive action is, taking sureties of huge amounts of 10 lakhs each on all the troublemakers. The brazen manner in which the troublemakers were moving with impunity, it goes to show that perhaps they had no fear of the law enforcement agencies. I very much doubt if there was any preventive arrest, any preventive action, because what had happened was a free-for-all and a mayhem. This was best prevented because I failed to understand Bengal police is the oldest police force in the country, and their systems and procedures were inherited by the rest of us, we in Uttar Pradesh and other police forces. There are 8 police station records that only focus on the violence, the preventive aspects, and the antisocial elements. And if the police had done their homework, just 10%, I don't think such an ugly situation would have happened at all. But if we choose to look the other way, and the police and the law enforcement agencies do not do what is expected of them, well, you sow a wind and you reap a whirlwind. And this is exactly what has happened in Bengal. Frank.
Absolutely. Jai Sai Deepak, let me bring you in now. There's a petition in the Supreme Court saying that, with immediate effect, we're to have president's rule in West Bengal. Is this, the fund, is this justified first and foremost? Like Mr. Subramaniam has already pointed out, Mamata Banerjee has won with a 2/3 majority in West Bengal, and clearly the people of West Bengal want her there, and clearly they want her policies. So from that perspective, when you look at it from a constitutional point of view, is it just?
So the petition that you're referring to is the petition filed by the Indian Collective Trust. And since I happen to be the one to settle that particular petition, I can tell you for a fact that there is a lot of misconception about what the petition actually asks for. There are about 6 prayers that the petition asks for. First is for central forces to be sent, and in fact there are quite a few central forces which are still there in West Bengal, for them to be deployed in troubled areas. That's point number 1. Point number 2, for the appointment of a special investigation team, again, perhaps under the stewardship of a retired judge of the Supreme Court, to look into this particular matter. 3, among other things, since Article 356 is the exclusive prerogative of the President of India, and of course to be read with the qualifications and riders imposed by the Supreme Court through the S.R. Bommai judgment of 1994, what we have said is, since the governor has openly expressed his inability to collect reports with respect to the situation, because the state police is not responding to his calls, and which he has put out in his tweets, the governor is not in a position to submit a report as required under Article 356(1). Now the thing is, Article 356(1) says a report of the governor or otherwise. So therefore we said, if the governor is not in a position to submit the report or otherwise means that the Supreme Court can effectively take cognizance of the situation, formulate let's say a fact-finding commission, so to speak, and that report may be sent to the president for his consideration under Article 356. Now, as far as this particular position is concerned, this is expressly endorsed in the Sarkaria Commission report, which focuses significantly on the limitations and the powers under Article 356. And there, or otherwise within the meaning of Article 356, has been specifically interpreted to mean that as long as the president has a credible basis for forming an opinion with respect to the dysfunctionality of the constitutional machinery in a given state, even if he does not receive a report from the governor of that particular state, it's possible for the president to take cognizance of those situations and then consider invoking Article 356. This is not an overreach over and above the limitations under S.R. Bommai. In fact, in this situation, what we have said is, from Al Jazeera to India Today to several news reports, including Anand Bazar Patrika, none of which are necessarily, let's say, entities which are close to a particular dispensation and have their own independent point of view and their independent voices, have specifically said that riots are going on in the particular place and people are being targeted specifically by the cadres of the winning party, so to speak. And this is not something that has come from one particular party. State leaders who belong to the Congress, who belong to the CPIM, and who belong to the BJP as well, all 3 of them have pointed out that all of their cadres are being targeted by the ruling cadre. Therefore, here seems to be a situation where a constitutional dignitary puts out a tweet saying that I am not getting any cooperation from the top police officers of the state. This is corroborated by multiple reports. In fact, if you remember, a few days ago, Justice Chandrachud had effectively passed a series of directions with respect to COVID-related issues. And in that, he had also said that Facebook posts must not be clamped down upon and they must be taken cognizance of at a time like this when you're not in a position to get information. Therefore, we are saying that Facebook posts of people who are effectively the aggrieved parties here from Bengal must also be taken cognizance of, because there are multiple tweets and Facebook posts basically saying that there are murders and mayhem going on right outside their homes. So according to me, there is a situation. Nobody is saying that the victorious party's power must be emasculated, citing this particular situation. But if this particular party is responsible for this, and if people wish to be apolitical about it, that's of course their choice. But the fact of the matter is, this is election-related political violence that is being committed for all practical purposes, and this is independent of any religion. People are being killed for their political choices and not just for their religion. That's exactly what's happening. So whatever may have been said during the course of the political campaign, or let's say the poll campaign, so to speak, and I don't think it's absolutely wrong to say that illegal migrants must be deported. That is not at all communal, and anybody who thinks that is communal is perhaps conflating communal with security issues. I don't think that's correct at all. So according to me, whatever may have been said, here is a situation where the government is necessarily turning a blind eye. So the petition is of course yet to be listed before the court. Mainstream media has has effectively reported the petition as asking for the Supreme Court to impose president's rule under Article 356, which cannot happen under any circumstances. That's the executive prerogative, that's the presidential prerogative. Therefore, it's a very calibrated prayer. I settled the petition, therefore I know the language of the prayer. It's para 12.5 of the prayer of the petition, where I've specifically said that declared that the constitutional machinery in the state of West Bengal has broken down within the meaning of Article 356 for further consideration by His Excellency the President of India. That is the language, which effectively means since the governor is not in a position to put together a report within the meaning of Article 356(1), therefore you kindly at least ensure that there is a fact-finding committee. And since people are not in a position to trust the state machinery, and therefore despite the High Court being present and the High Court not having taken so much of cognizance of the situation is bad enough for people to circumvent the High Court and approach the court under Article 332. That's the specific position that's been taken in the petition.
Right. All right. Points taken. So you heard the two other panelists as well as far as this issue is concerned. I want to hear your thoughts on this particular matter and what you feel.
So I believe that
no, Sai, I'm coming back to you. This is for Mr. Subramaniam.
Oh, my apologies.
Sir,
Mr. Subramaniam.
Sir, the point is that I totally agree with my esteemed colleague from the services, Mr. Vikram Singh, that there is a police force existing. There are also paramilitary forces which he has already quoted extensively, which are guided or which are already told in the statute book what they need to do in a law and order situation. Now there is an elected chief minister who has taken charge only yesterday. Now she is also aware of whatever is happening, and I'm sure that the state government will start acting now. Just because the incident is most unfortunate, is despicable and condemnable, but just because it has happened and very valuable lives have been lost, which should not have been lost, we cannot now suddenly say the president should intervene, Supreme Court should intervene, is my humble submission. There is a chief minister, there is a police force, there is a DG police, there is a chief secretary, there is a home secretary, all of them are in place. And it will be a shame for the Indian democracy that if none of them are going to act after this, they will act. I'm sure they will act, notwithstanding whatever may be the political affiliation or political sympathies for any party. I think any chief minister, I've been myself principal secretary to chief ministers of my state, they will act. It is not that, but yesterday was a vacuum where people were waiting for the new chief minister to take over. She has taken over. Now to simply believe that, I'm not able to get any response and all that, unfortunately, over a period of time, which should not have been the case, even constitutional machineries have become political. So I am not very sure what His Excellency, the governor, may be saying is true or not true. Nobody knows. But I'm certain now that there is a chief minister in position, she will take a meeting of the officers, and the officers also know their responsibilities. Maybe they were a little slack after the elections. I agree with Mr. Singh that they should have taken all preventive measures, which has unfortunately not been taken. Of course, there is always an hesitation on the part of the police and the administration to take action against the ruling party's people. But now when this kind of situation, mayhem is taking place, I am sure, I have also dealt with the police forces. They will act, sir. They are also patriotic people. They are also nationalistic people. They know what is good for the society. It is not that they are going to just sort of turn their face the other side when people are going to be massacred. I am sure the DG police and the new chief minister, who is of course an old hand in the chief ministership, will do the needful. Yes,
Right.
there is a petition which is anybody's right. I am sure the Supreme Court can also, instead of saying that under 356 and all these huge provisions, can straight away direct the Chief Minister, please act or perish. They can do that. They are already doing it. The Supreme Court is doing even to the central government. The high courts are doing it to the central government. You act now in this situation of and provide oxygen, otherwise we'll charge you with contempt. Any such one statement by the Supreme Court, apart from the fact that they themselves are all responsible people, I am sure the machinery will gear up and this will not recur to the same scale. Maybe there could be incidents here and there, but it won't be large scale violence. That is my belief.
So building on this point that Mr. Subramanian has made, Dr. Singh, I want to ask you a couple of questions. One, of course, violence or political violence is not new in West Bengal. We've seen that it is part of the political culture of West Bengal. Why is it that we've not been able to put an end to it over the years is one. Secondly, building on the point that Mr. Subramanian has just made, can the police bring things under control, or has irreparable damage been done?
Mr. Subramaniam has very lucidly explained both the legal aspect and the practical aspect. During the period of transition, the police and the administrations are often, more often than not, are mute spectators. Let's see which side the wind is blowing and then take action thereafter, which is extremely unfortunate. The constitutional machine, the DGP and Chief Secretary are supposed to act better as per the rule book, but it's easier said than done. The history of violence happens, and when the state government looks the other way. If there is a clear and a zero tolerance message from the government that such violence will not be tolerated, and heads will roll, that of the district magistrate and the superintendent of police, that of the DGP and the chief secretary, if there is violence or if there is orchestrated violence. Make no mistake about it, Frank, there will be no such violence. I would say that when the state looks the other way and there is a silent acceptance or a silent signal that such violence can be condoned and look the other way, that it is only then that it assumes epidemic proportions, as in the case of West Bengal, Bihar, and even in UP at one point of time. I would say that we have sufficient experience to know that if the state had wanted, this could have been. Now, in times about the future, in future, again, there is a political aspect and political brownie points when it comes to such violence, to settling scores. As far as rules are concerned, let me assure you, if the rule book is to be faithfully implemented, violence and antisocial elements can be contained in 48 hours, not more than. There will not be a 49th hour. But where is the will of the state? The police machinery of West Bengal and that of Calcutta police are iconic. We learn from them. Their documentation is perfect. Investigation is superb. But then, if there is a silent signal from the state to look the other way on during such violence, well, it is not. And the police forces and the administration have become very street smart. They know which side of the bread has the butter. And that is the tragedy of administration. We are not supposed to look at the buttered side of the toast. We are supposed to look at what is proper and what is administratively appropriate, not what is expedient. Under these circumstances, Frank, I would feel that yes, some intervention, some sanity has to prevail at the highest level of the DGP and the Chief Secretary and the IS and the IPS officer. They're all their services with a purpose. Governments come and governments go, but they are here for 36 years, 37 years, and they are supposed to implement the rule of law, not the manifesto of any political party, Frank.
Absolutely. Jai Sai Deepak, let's talk about another aspect now. After hearing both the other senior panelists on the program, doesn't Mamata Banerjee have a lot to lose in all of this? Yes, the cadre has run wild, but looking at the situation, the president's rule stick can always be wielded at Mamata Banerjee, and she has a lot to lose from such a kind of a situation as well. Wouldn't you agree with that?
So if the suggestion is that since she has a lot to lose and therefore she wouldn't do something of this sort, I'm sorry to say that a couple of news reports indicate to the contrary, because these reports have effectively captured her express warnings, where she has said that what will you do after the central forces leave? And that's not a statement that has been said by Ms. Mamata Banerjee alone. It's been said by some of her own colleagues who have been elected, including Mr. Rahman. So all these statements have been made. So according to me, whether or not she has a direct role to play, the fact of the matter is, even if there is, let's say, a transition, so to speak, it makes no difference to the fact that law and order continues to be the responsibility of the government, which is the caretaker government, until the new government comes into power. Okay. And today, what has happened for all practical purposes, in fact, if videos are coming out, ever since the petition has been filed, several people from Kolkata as well as from the countryside of Bengal have been reaching out to the legal team that has filed this petition, giving videos, photographs, live videos along with timestamps, showing us what has happened in Sialda, what is happening in Malda, what's happening in Asansol, what's happening in Kolkata. Journalists have specifically reached out with photographs of people, so-called, let's say, supporters of the opposite party being murdered 5 houses away from them. Okay? Respected journalists, each of them has reached out to us. So and here's a situation where the police is actually watching as shops are being looted. There are videos of that. Now we are being told that some of these videos are 3 months old, but these videos have come with timestamps specifically showing what's happening. Therefore, according to me, sure, the imposition of the president rule may be a bit of an overreach, but that is a stick that must be wielded at this point to rein in these elements so that a message is sent to the state government. They must effectively rein in the situation, failing which all options are on the table, because this is not a case of a ping pong being fought between the center and the state. There are lives being lost. I really don't care who comes to power and who doesn't. For me, all that matters is at the end of the day, the constitutional machinery, which is meant to protect at least the basic rights of life and property of the people, has fundamentally broken down, and not because there has been a sudden explosion. This clearly has a premeditated tinge to it. And the statements made by these people, in fact, India Today specifically put out those statements yesterday saying who said what. So I don't believe that there is any reason to doubt these statements of a constitutional functionary over a political functionary in a situation such as this, when the statements of the political functionary seems to be consistent with what is happening after the election results. So if you have said something and after the elections that's exactly what has transpired, I have no reasons to sit and doubt the governor of that particular state. I will certainly point fingers at the chief minister of that particular state for saying, I can't do anything, but look at the statements that I've made previously and look at what's happening now. There is nothing in my hands. If you're saying that as the state chief minister, things have gone out of your hands, then thank you. You have effectively established the reasons for invocation of at least 355, if not 356.
All right, time to get closing comments now from all the panelists with the best way forward, starting first with you, Mr. Subramanian.
Sir, maybe even filing this petition by our friend in the panel, and also all these videos which will be now examined by the Supreme Court, would put enough fear for the law and the constitution, I'm sure, both in the machinery as well as on the chief minister. Now, just to sort of, pass a comment or presume that the IAS officers, the IPS officers, the DG police, the entire force and the paramilitary forces, nobody is going to listen to anybody and they will only listen to the goons, is a very improbable situation. Both Mr. Singh and I, we have done 37 years in our respective services, IAS and IPS. And it is like two wheels of the entire governmental machinery. They work together. And then I don't think that such a mayhem is going to repeat. Yes, there could be, for the sake of minor, selfish interest, some laxity on the part of some people. I'm sure with the Supreme Court also intervening, and also I'm sure there is a Home Minister for the country, there is the Prime Minister for the country. They will talk to the Chief Minister. Things will get under control. But to simply say that, immediately now we should impose 356 and President will get into it is all, while it is a good way of putting the fear for the Constitution in the minds of all concerned, I don't think should be the solution. Ultimately, the state is run by the Chief Minister. We are a democracy, it is elected by the people, and they have just shown their verdict on it. And to simply say that all IAS officers, all IPS officers are going to toe our line is also not correct, sir. Many of us have faced difficulties in not towing the line, and I'm sure many will be facing there also in West Bengal, but still officers are there who will put their spine up. And one is expected at the level of DG Police and the Chief Secretary and Home Secretary that they are expected to put their spine up and do what is correct. That's all I have to say.
Right. Dr. Singh.
The third victory of Mamta Didi is a momentous occasion not only for Bengal but for India. It is for Mamta Didi now. She already eyeing a national pedestal as a national leader. I do hope that this victory is taken in that spirit, and then she's accountable not only to the constitution but to her own conscience. This mayhem is not ultimately going to do good to anyone. Those that play with the sword shall perish with the sword also. As Mr. Subramaniam very rightly mentioned, that this violence will be counterproductive for everyone, and it will be a constitutional tragedy if we were to invoke the president's rule in Bengal, because the two-third majority that the TMC has won is a ground reality. The verdict given in the court of the people cannot be swept underneath the carpet. And here is the problem. On one hand, you have the verdict of the people, and on the other hand, you have something that the rule book says. Within that, there has to be an understanding. Let peace prevail. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Frank.
Absolutely. And Jesai Deepak, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
So the latest update is that the Calcutta High Court has taken cognizance of the petitions filed by advocates from Bengal, specifically showing that these situations have spun out of control. Apart from the fact, of course, that a team from the National Commission of Women is visiting the state to take cognizance of gang rapes that have taken place. So sure, we need not necessarily ask for imposition of Article 356 or invocation of 355. But at the very least, we must take cognizance, and we shouldn't beat around the bush, that for now, Bengal happens to be a lawless zone. So to admit that things have gone out of control and they'll come back to control is perhaps a hope of optimism. I'm certainly one who's a great fan of optimism. But let's admit that there has been a vacuum, and whether that vacuum has been created, motivated or not, let the courts decide that.
All right. On that note, then, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, what's coming out of the discussion is that the violence in West Bengal is highly condemnable and should not have taken place. The perpetrators must be brought to book. With the TMC winning a two-thirds majority and getting the people's mandate, calling for president's rule in the state might be pushing it a little too far. However, it's a good tactic to get the state to rein in the violence and act upon what has happened. Now that the Chief Minister has taken oath, it is her duty to ensure that the situation is brought completely under control, and we need to see what happens in the days to come. Once again, thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do follow our social media handles for all the latest updates, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. Here are the UPI IDs for those who would like to come forward and contribute. They, along with the other information, are in the description of the video. A small contribution you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. So do continue to show your love and support. That's it from me. See you again next time.